Yeah, they're coming out the woodworks. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Listen,
I was just talking about that.
yeah. Huh? I was just trying to make. Yeah.
Testing 1, 2. Nope. There it is.
The sound was great in closed session. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, that was. I like that I didn't have to. So we live now? Okay. Hi. Hi, home. See, when you live, it's not like a program. We're not program robots over here. So we're just getting some technical services done to the live feed and also to our mics. So whenever you want me to, okay. That's why you got Mr. Frank, you know. You got Mr. Frank. I don't need all that extra. You don't have a Mr. Frank on your staff. I don't know what you're doing. Thank you.
You in trouble.
Sorry, you in trouble. You in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good evening, those at home watching us live, and then those who are soon be joining us in the audience. I'm just going to make sure that some people are here. Welcome, trustees, to the regular board meeting. Our closed session ran over where we were discussing closed session items, and that business ran over. So now we're going to start our regular board meeting. I'm going to ask the secretary, Mr. Trustee Gross, for roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Vice President Bowman.
Present.
Treasurer David Smith.
Present.
President Garrett.
Present.
I'm here. Trustee Hannah.
Present.
Trustee Terry.
Present.
Trustee Turpin.
Present.
Sir, you have a quorum. 7-0.
All right, thank you. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Piece of my glasses.
Okay. Thank you. I need a motion on the floor to amend the agenda.
So moved by Turpin.
Support.
So moved by Trustee Turpin, supported by Trustee David Smith. Upon the the approval will be under regular working item in Part B, General Counsel discussion item. Proposed Pontiac Association of School Administration PASA 2022-2026 contract. And then also it'd be under action item as well for approval of the same contract. That motion has been passed and moved. Any questions, comments, concerns about that amendment to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Treasurer David Smith.
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Terry.
Yes.
Trustee Turpin.
Yes.
Vice President Bowman.
Yes.
Sir, that amendment passed 7-0.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Need a motion on the floor to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Trustee David Smith,
Support.
supported by Trustee Hannah. Questions, comments, or concerns? None? Okay. Hearing none, roll call.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Terry.
Yes.
Trustee Turpin.
Yes.
Vice President Bowman.
Yes.
Treasurer David Smith.
Yes.
Sir, the approval of the agenda passed 7-0.
Awesome. Thank you, trustees. We want to move down to awards and recognitions. We don't have any at this particular meeting. Recognition of any elected officials. Any elected officials. Okay. I don't see any. Good evening, trustees. You are elected officials. Okay. Good evening, Mrs. Terry. How are you? I see you're joining us again. Thank you for joining us at this time. We want to move down to consent agenda items. Need a motion on the floor? So moved by Trustee David Smith,
Support.
supported by Trustee Hannah. Roll call, please.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah?
Yes.
Trustee Terry?
Yes.
Trustee Turpin?
Yes.
Vice President Bowman?
Yes.
Treasurer David Smith?
Yes.
And President Garrett.
Yes.
Consent agenda passed, sir, 7-0.
Thank you. We're going to move down to information from the Superintendent Administration, Superintendent Report, discussion item 1A. Superintendent, the meeting is all yours.
Thank you. At this time, this is our annual resolution that we bring before the board. This is for the 2022-23 MHSAA Annual Membership Resolution. Membership resolution for the year August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2023. Junior high, middle, and senior high schools of your school system, which are to be listed as MHSAA members and receive MHSAA mailings during 2022-23 are Pontiac High School and Pontiac Middle School, enrolled as members of the Michigan High School Athletic Association Incorporation, a nonprofit association, and are further enrolled to participate in the approved interschool athletic activities sponsored by said association. The recommendation is that administration recommends the Board of Education approve the 22-23 MHSAA Annual Membership Resolution for the period of August 1st through August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2023.
Okay. Thank you for that. Trustees, any questions? Okay.
It's
Sit-
something we do every year, right?
Yeah, it's something that happens every year. If we don't approve this particular item, our kids are not eligible, or basically break it down plainly, for scholarships, things of that nature that fall under the MASHAA. So very, very important for our students, student athletes, that we get this part of the business done. All right, we're going to move down to our public hearing now. Superintendent.
Thank you. We are excited about working through our budget for 22-23. We have presented this to the board in several meetings to discuss and recommend, as well as to hear the priorities from the board as well as staff to create and develop our 22-23 budget. We will enter into our public hearing, and that will be facilitated by Mr. Jim Graham, our CFO.
So I'm wanting to assume that you want to make his presentation a part of the public hearing.
Yes.
Yes, he discusses it, and then we open it up as the public hearing piece,
Okay,
as under discussion.
so we're not in a public hearing right now, unless you want his presentation to be involved in the public hearing.
It
It
is.
is.
This is a public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay,
It can be, there's multiple ways you can do it on the board agenda, and one is simply have it as agenda item. So this
Okay,
would be the
that's fine.
public hearing.
I just
Yeah, we
need
want to
clarity.
just present
Okay.
out so that the community hears what.
Gotcha.
Make sure I. On one? Side one? This is an old clicker. I'm not feeling confident.
No?
Can you
Is
change
it-
it for me? Do you mind? All right,
Okay.
thanks so much. All right. I'll just put my thumb up. So again, the purpose of this public hearing is it's actually required by state law. It's also required in terms of adopting our millage rates. But really the bigger issue is to give our community the opportunity to give suggestions, concerns they have on the proposed budget. This budget has been available in person at the front desk area, as well as on the website for the public to review it. And the board may not adopt the proposed budget until after this public hearing. And again, our recommendation is this will be brought back on the 27th for approval. So that's the other part of that law. So we had a board retreat May 19th where we presented to the Board of Education the proposed budget. And we've had meetings since then and discussions since then. On June 7th, the budget was available actually prior to that date, but it was required to be available by June 7th. We have the first reading tonight, which is a public hearing. And again, as I just mentioned, the proposal would be to adopt on the 27th. We have to, by law, adopt by June 30th every year. So there's a lot of funds in the general fund as well as other operating funds. And the general fund is really comprised of 5 sub-funds. The general operations fund, which is Fund 110, it has most of the day-to-day operations of the district. Pontiac Schools has a lot of grants. Grants are kept in Fund 120, and special education is 130. We also have athletics, which is 150, and our general fund debt is 170, and that is the emergency loans we received and other loans for operations of the district. Then we have our special revenue funds, and those are 200 level funds. We have food service at 250, student activity at 290, and then our 300 level funds are debt service funds. And we have one of those funds, and that's for the first series of the $103 million that were sold last July for the Series 1 regarding the $147 million bond issue that our voters approved on March 11th, 2020. And then our 400 level funds, our sinking fund, their capital fund, sinking fund, and our bond construction, which is ongoing. And then we have a fund 810, which is our internal service funds, which is where we track and manage our workers' compensation, our unemployment, and our property and casualty insurance. So this is the good news. There's a lot of good news tonight, I believe, and this really shows the progression the district's made from the $51 million fund deficit that the district had back in 2012-13. And you can see by we officially became out of deficit in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. We're adding to that surplus this year, and our proposed budget adds on top of that also for 22-23. This shows the annual surpluses. So while the fund balance is a cumulative number, this is the annual surpluses that contribute to that rising number. And you can see that we've been pretty steady for many years. And essentially, we've been actually running more than a break-even budget. We've been running a surplus budget, but we had to first pay off that legacy deficit before we could see a positive number, which we are currently in that environment right now. This is the general fund budget summary, proposed budget for next year. And the revenues are by object. You have local revenues, primarily that is property taxes. We have state revenues, and that is through state aid. And then we have federal grant revenues, which have grown considerably due to the COVID grants that have been afforded Pontiac schools. And we also have our other funds. We have a county special education millage, and then we have other financing sources, and that is our tax anticipation borrowing we do every year, and fund transfers. And then on the expenditure side of things, you can see that primarily the costs are going to be instructional. We have also support services, community services, debt service I mentioned earlier, capital improvements, other financing, and that's really the other side of our borrowing for our tax anticipation note, paying that back, and then fund transfers also. So the proposed budget is just under a $1.5 million surplus we're proposing for next year, and that would increase the fund balance to about $10.5 million. And we are going to be talking later in the meeting about budget amendment number 2, which will actually increase both those numbers. And I'll go over that later in the meeting. So general fund expenditures, I'm going to take this off my piece here. Don't know whether to wear glasses or don't wear glasses. So again, I mentioned property taxes. That's by far the largest source of local revenues, $37.5 million. We had a unprecedented increase in our tax base this year, over 11%. State revenues is about 16% of our revenues. We do receive some reimbursements for special education. We no longer receive funding on a per student basis because we are out of formula. But we are getting additional monies for special education. And also we get a portion back for our contribution to the pension system. A portion of that dollars are sent back to the district. So that's part of that also. I mentioned federal awards being much higher with the COVID dollars, and those have been called different things, but the three largest pockets of or silos of money, I guess, are ESSER 1, 2, and 3. And again, the 1 and 2 are basically done, and ESSER 3 is really the what's in 2022-23. Other TAN borrowings, and this is a big item. I had mentioned previously we're actually over 17 million in borrowing. We dropped that to 14.5 million in our current budget, and we're proposing dropping that to 11 million next year, which is a huge improvement. Again, the goal is to eventually not have to borrow dollars at all. And then we also have, I mentioned, the Public Act 18 special ed dollars and Medicaid dollars through Oakland schools. Expenditures right now in the budget, we do not have any wage increases until we have our union contracts that are ratified. We do have 4.06% for non-union employees. And again, that is a formula-based wage calculation. We introduced it this current year, and it basically looks at our increase in our tax base, and there's a formula that generates a wage increase if applicable. And the reason that's important is our tax base is our largest revenue source, and wages are our largest expenditure source. So be able to tying them together provides district stability, provides predictability for our employees. And so that's a very good outcome with having that formula. We did a budget open positions that we're currently, like a lot of districts, trying to find people to fill positions. Benefits, we have the cap for benefits. And again, the state of Michigan, through Public Act 152, limits the amount of money we can pay for employee benefits. So that cap goes up every year, and the cap is increased by 1.3%. But since that's a 6-month rate, the actual fiscal year rate is 2.5. Again, then we have other categories, purchase services, and a lot of that is our contracted staffing. We have to use a lot of contracted staffing in the district because we're not able to fill all our positions. And then supplies, capital items. And capital items primarily are right now through the ESSER dollars. We do have capital purchases also through the bond issue, but again, this is just a general fund budget. And then debt service, about 12.9 million in expenditures. So next, please. These are the staff changes. These are additional staff that are added to the proposed budget. We did break them down by what would be funded by the general fund and what would be funded by grants. Keep going, please. And you can see overall 24.5 additional FTEs. 8 of those will be general fund, and 16.5 would be budgeted through the grant. And a lot of that will be the ESSER grant through the federal government. Next, please. This is our general fund debt, and again, this has improved also greatly. Our total debt service back in fiscal year 2020 was about 17.3 million. You can see the proposed budget next year is about 12.9 million. We have paid off this debt right here. 2018B has been paid off early. We also refinanced these 2 emergency loans at a much lower interest rate through the state of Michigan, as well as reducing the principal from 20 million down to 9 million. And then the Huntington Bank, we also refinanced that. That was 10.5 million, and the new debt is down to about 8.7 million, as well as having a lower interest rate. So all those things are very positive trends for the future for the general fund. And then I mentioned the tax anticipation note borrowing also is a huge piece in terms of increasing our financial stability. Next, please. Food service assumptions. Total revenue is about 3.3 million. We have SFE as our third-party contract manager of our program. They just had received a new 5-year contract a few months ago with the Board of Education. And the majority of our revenues are through the federal government, through our free and reduced meal program. There are also some state revenues we receive. And you can see the breakdown of expenditures by category for the program. Next, please. This just shows it in the same format as the general fund by a little more specific, showing the prior year numbers by category. And the expenditures are by function code, so it's a little bit different. The primarily, it's going to be in the food service expenditure code. And then the transfer to the general fund is the profit that is transferred from the food service fund to the general fund. Next, please. Student activity. Not a lot of activity in that. It's about, we have 17 student activity accounts, but these are important because each building has one of these, and some buildings have multiple funds. Things like robotics is very active, probably the most active fund we have. And it allows buildings to segregate dollars for specific purposes for students. And so this fund does track those revenues and expenditures. And again, it doesn't change a lot, but about $76,000 or so in revenues per year is budgeted, and both revenues and expenditures. Next, please. Again, don't need to go over this. It just shows the same thing basically by function code. So the debt fund, I had mentioned the business tax base increased by 11%. Overall property tax taxable values went up 12.9%. So that includes people's primary homes. So substantial increase in that. And the nice thing is with the bond issue for the bond debt, and this is a $2 million bond debt, it is levied on all properties. So it's not just levied on commercial properties, it's levied on principal residence. So the 12.9% obviously helps us keep our promise to the community that we would never go higher than 2 mils. And so that is a good thing to give us some cushion in that arena. The expenditures, we have about $5.8 million in debt we have to pay next year. A little over $2 million of that is principal, and $3.7 million of that is interest. And our debt payments are made in November and May in this fund. And you can see the breakdown a little bit more on this chart. Sinking fund. Again, we used to have the 2.87 mil sinking fund. As part of the bond approval, we had a question on the ballot for a 0.08 or 0.80 millage for the sinking fund. So again, if you had the 2 mils for the bond issue debt and the 0.8 mils for the sinking fund, combined, it's actually lower than the rate that was paid in previous years, which was 2.87. So it was actually a small tax reduction for our community. And on top of that, we received these funds to be able to redo our buildings, which has been phenomenal. And it's an ongoing project and will be for some time. So we do have to reduce it's called a Headley rollback, and it gets a little complicated, but essentially if the overall rate increases too much, they require us to reduce the overall rate a little bit. And so there was a small reduction in the overall rate. So the 0.80 mils is rolled back to 0.7980. So a small reduction. But again, overall, it went up 12.7%. So that more than offsets that small reduction. And the sinking fund, I kind of look as a partner to the bond issue. We can still do a lot of projects out of the sinking fund that we can do out of the bond issue. So it does allow us to do some smaller projects. We have the middle school, high school science labs in here next year in the numbers. We also have $2.5 million that's just unallocated at this point. We'd like to set aside $1 million for technology and security, and then $4.9 million. And the one nice thing about sinking funds is that you can pay for school repairs. You cannot pay for repairs out of the bond issue. So not that we anticipate having a lot of money to spend on sinking fund repair projects, but it is nice that we can use the sinking fund to make repairs as opposed to the general fund having to foot the bill for that. So next, please. And again, this shows it by functional code. Next, please. And then the second capital fund is Fund 420, which is our first series, Bond 2020. You can see the work that's been done already with the high school stadium field, track. WHRC has a lot of work being done right now, the middle school, high school. We've been concentrating on the secondary schools right now. And really, once we sell the next phase of bonds for this bond issue, we'll be concentrating on the elementary schools. So you can see the projects that are currently been approved and are currently going to be expended in the budget for next year. There's really not a lot of revenues coming in except interest earnings, but we anticipate, thankfully, the one nice thing about interest rates going up is we're going to actually finally start making some money on our dollars that are sitting there before we have to pay for these construction projects. Next, please. And this shows it again in graphical form. And again, with the Second Amendment, you will see that we are going to increase the fund balance for 21-22 because a lot of these projects, there's been some deference on it, and actually, so some of those will be bumping into 22-23 that'll be carried forward. So next one, please. So our last fund is Fund 810, and I mentioned that is where we track our general liability insurance. We track our workers' compensation expenditures, unemployment expenditures, and so it's a way to keep those dollars separate so we can track them and make sure that that there's enough funding to make all those payments. And there is go to the next slide, please. There is a healthy surplus in this fund, about $1.1 million, which is nice, so that if we were to have any major claims in any of these categories, there are dollars there that would help address those issues. So next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to present the millage rates, which is an important component of the public hearing. We're required. I talked about it briefly, but I wanted to have one more slide to go a little more detail. So basically, I mentioned the rollback of the sinking fund, with the slight rollback in the sinking fund millage. The primary funding source of the district is the 18 mills for non-homestead, and that is basically commercial property, industrial property, vacant property, stuff like that, not your primary home. But in order to get our full funding, we need to levy the full 18 mills. Well, back in March of 2017, the district had the voters approve 18 mills and then another half a mill just to help give some cushion in case those rates had to be rolled back, as I mentioned earlier. But the intent was always to be able to levy the full 18 mills. You can never levy more than 18 mills. So many districts use strategies. I know some districts approved like 22 mills. Just to make sure it never comes to play that you have to reduce the 18 mills. Well, this year we actually do have to reduce that. We've blown through that half a mil extra, and right now the levy is 17.8892. So in order to be able to levy the full 18 mills, we have to go back to the voters and ask again for a supplemental millage to be able to make sure we can levy the full 18 mills. And that is occurring on August 2nd. So basically, we are at this point levying the 17.8892 mills. If that question would be approved by the voters in the December tax bill, we would add a very small portion to be able to get us back to that full 18 mills. And then from that point forward, we would be in good shape. Wanted to also mention that the Mesa judgment was paid off. That affected 4 of our 8 municipalities. So there's no longer any millage on those taxes for that payment. That has been, the district paid off the remaining portion of that out of the general fund. So next steps, again, we had the first reading today, the adoption hopefully June 27th. We have our financial audit, which the field portion of that begins right after Labor Day. We plan on presenting the audit results in October to the board. And we usually have 2 amendments. And of course, we can add more amendments if necessary. But traditionally, we've had an amendment in December and a second amendment in May or June. And again, tonight I'm presenting the second amendment for fiscal year 2022. So with that, that's all I have. Is any questions from the community?
All right.
President?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We now open up for public comments. If you have any, just approach the podium as it relates to comments. The public portion of this meeting for public comments is now open at 6:58 p.m. p.m. And just out of respect of having guests in the audience, I mean, they may have questions, give them time. Any questions? Okay. Okay. I want to hold it open for like 5 minutes. That way we, just in case somebody's running out of the storm and interested in the public budget of the Pontiac School District and dying to ask a question. And then at this time, if trustees, if you have any questions, if you can think about them, so think about them now. I would appreciate that. Yep, if you can just go up to the podium and just so we can hear you. We'll get you a copy. Some of them don't like to get out here. I mean, this board is very active. I see y'all all the time. I worked on some prior boards, boy. They wasn't important. You wouldn't see. That was a very valid question. You know what trustee? And they don't want to get up to the mic. That's why you have a representative in both forms. You know, November. I like exercise my right. Somebody represent me. A lot of times I don't like to talk to the mic. They're supposed to be on stage. Okay, so we reached that mark in public comments for the public.
Okay.
Going once, going twice. Public comments are closed at 7:03 p.m. We're going to open up now to board comments. So, any board comments at this time?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
question. Oh, we're all set? I didn't want to jump.
Yeah, it's on you.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Superintendent, and you indicated, Mr. Graham did in the most recent slide that there is an audit each year, correct?
That is correct.
And how have we done in the previous audits?
We had zero findings.
Say that
and
again.
Zero findings for
Okay.
grants as well as our general fund. We did have one area of improvement, and that has been corrected. And so for the last 3 years, since we've been out of deficit, which was the one finding for
Yes.
many years, we have continued to improve our systems and management of the dollars and being good shepherds. So outstanding credit review, moving up and improving each year. And we're doing well in that area with our audits.
And I asked a question because we are live, and I wanted the community to hear that, because there was a lot of information to take in a short period of time, and there's a lot of numbers there, and people have a tendency to take a look at numbers, and when I say a lot of numbers, that's a lot of money, and it's been history, and I want us to eliminate, or not get rid of, but to eliminate some of the bad thinking from our history. And this is why I asked that question first about the audit and zero findings. I actually had the opportunity. Well, it wasn't an opportunity. I was in Rochester on Saturday, and I was speaking. I was at a place, and I was speaking with a gentleman from Rochester, and he asked me what did I do, and I told him I was a board member here, and he says, "Wow, it's tough to be a board member at Pontiac," and and then when I began to explain to him where we are financially and academically, it totally blew his mind. And that's the information that we need to share, because we are not in the past.
Right.
We are financially sound at this point in time. Now, again, our hopes and prayers are we continue to be that way based on our new formula and what we're doing, as well as what the community has done in voting in the bond for us.
Right.
And it has allowed us to maintain a pretty good general fund balance, just in case. And I want the community to understand that regardless of the amount of monies we have, things are being dealt with or taken care of professionally, properly, and in orderly.
Correct.
And the community needs to hear that.
They do.
That for the last several years, and a few years now, we have had zero findings of anything in the negative. That's something outside. That's something easy that people can understand without having to always just look at the numbers, but to clearly understand that we're not trying to hide anything.
No. And with that being said, if I may add, what
Absolutely.
that means for the district as a whole is resources, tools for our teaching staff as it relates to salaries and 21st century learning for our students. We now are afforded the opportunity to be able to provide those needs. Where in the past, with a deficit of $52 million, textbooks that were outdated up to 30 plus years, we're not in that place anymore. And
Correct.
it takes time to now see the results that it will yield. Of course, the pandemic did not help us on the academic side, but we were seeing a trajectory of improvement, even in the academics with attendance. We were on the movement of improvement, and the data showed that with our graduation rates as well. But it's important to understand that with a solid budget and a fund balance, you are able to provide a sound education system for the students, and they're deserving of it as well as the community. So that's the important piece as far as making the decisions around your budget and making sure that you have fund balance to be able to deal with emergencies where it will not impact the learning system.
And that's correct. And that's, I wanted to get that information out there. And I forgot to say also where we are today too, because of the sacrifices of yourself, your staff,
Yes.
our teachers, our
Absolutely.
administrators, and the sacrifices that they made. I just didn't want to leave them out too,
Mhm.
because we're now in a sound fiscal
Correct.
position now. But people need to hear that.
Yes.
And I know as a board, we talk about that because we can't do what we're doing for our children to give them the best, right? If we're not doing the best we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Terry.
Just one, just so that everyone's aware, I just wanted to confirm that the budget that is being proposed does capture the salary, as far as the teachers that we are currently missing, that are absent, whatever, we're trying to get fulfilled. And then in addition to that, it also captures the funding for the new teachers, that we're looking to acquire moving forward.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to confirm that. And then in addition to that, we are still taking preparations and plans as far as retention, as far as keeping the teachers going forward as well.
Absolutely. Bonuses as well as becoming a more attractive district with our salaries to be more competitive. So all of that is built into the budget as well for negotiations.
And we're still looking at a surplus.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
He gonna watch that money, man. He is gonna watch that dollar, man. That man came through the door like, hey. Any other questions, comments from the board? You know, it's fairly, you guys make it really easy for me. Like, it's not, you ask all the questions before I can ask a question. So I'm pretty cool with it. I'm really comfortable with this budget as it relates to moving forward. I had some conversation. We had conversation Wednesday in regards to when you're talking about budget amendments. We have to, and to your point, Trustee Gross, we have to do I think we do a great job with extending the open invitation and transparency of just, hey, coming in. But I think in our community specifically, because our citizens have had to learn how to navigate without transparency, or without even on the municipality side. A lot of times when you're not that strong over on the municipal side, your people have a tendency of saying, my city just don't care, right? And so as they're turning themselves around and the school district has made the turn, we have to go out in the community. And that's why I'm grateful. And I know we said it as a joke, but I am grateful for each and every one of these trustees sitting up here, because they go out in the community in their own way and they have their own groups that they're talking to. And we cover a lot. People, if you choose not to have the information, that's one thing. But to say that I don't have the information accessible to me, I remember a time where a citizen could sit in that same chair, and I thank you for asking for the budget, because it happened to remind me, well, they couldn't produce it. Now, how come you couldn't produce a budget that you gave the trustees, but the person that's sitting right there, you can't go produce the same budget? And the superintendent got right up, go get a copy, give it to the citizen. That's what they pay for, a service. That's what they pay for. That right there. And for me, as a governing body who's elected to do so, it feels like, or we know for a fact, hey, that job is being done. So they give an opportunity to look at the budget. They can reach out to trustees after this public hearing is all said and done and say, okay, if you have any questions. And I'm grateful for Trustee Terry and for the questions that he asks, and just when y'all ask them offline, and the questions that we've had through this whole budget cycle. So I appreciate that. I'll open up again one more time for budget comments. Okay. All right, we're going to move forward. And we're going to move down to action item. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for the presentation.
Thank you.
As usual. Action item: approval of the 2022-2023 MHSAA annual membership resolution. Need a motion on the floor?
So moved by Turpin.
So moved by Turpin, supported by Trustee Bowman. Question, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call.
Trustee Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Terry.
Yes.
Trustee Turpin. Vice President Bowman.
Yes.
Treasurer David Smith.
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Sir, that action item passed 7-0.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going to move down to the regular working agenda and finance items. Discussion item number 1, our second budget amendment. Superintendent.
Thank you. It's important for the community to understand that every budget is built with assumptions included in it. And so it is in the best interest of administration to present to the board as well as to the community amendments where changes to any line item may occur throughout the school year. We bring that to the board and to the community twice, and if needed, 3 times. So this is a regular routine to ensure that our budget is up to par and up to date at all times, and to keep the board informed of any changes that would waver from the initial budget cycle. I'll turn it over to Jim.
All right, thank you. This is the, as the superintendent indicated, this is the second amendment of the year. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned previously, it is an improved state versus our first amendment, but I'm going to give you a little history. So the original budget for 21-22 was budgeted a surplus of $1,056,000. Again, as we were doing this year, we assumed the full general ed staffing and half the special ed openings. We have assumed full operations. And then we assumed $4 million of ESSER funds could be used to cover existing teacher compensation. And then we also had steps for all staff as well as a 1% increase. Next slide, please. So with the first amendment, which was in December, the surplus was increased to about just over 1.1 million. Again, I won't go through all this, but there are some changes that occurred from basically June through December that were incorporated. Some larger changes and some smaller changes. I mentioned the payoff of the Mesa levy was one item. I also mentioned reducing the debt by $1 million. We also, one of the things I wanted to do with the amendment is reduce the huge amount of account numbers we have. So I consolidated our workers' compensation and unemployment account numbers to reduce over 500 account numbers. So that was accomplished in the First Amendment. And then I mentioned the chargebacks of $3.8 million for staffing. And again, that window has been closed. No longer are you allowed to use the ESSER dollars to pay for existing salaries. You can use those dollars for retention, which we are doing, but you can no longer use it to pay for normal salary costs. And we did add the Pontiac High School in-house custodial staffing mid-year, and that was incorporated also. Next slide, please. So this amendment increases the surplus even further to 1.76 million. Major changes in this amendment, and I mentioned this earlier, the ORS reimbursement, and that's the state pension system. And the way the state reimburses that amount, it's based on your actual wages as a percentage of overall state wages. And so I did budget conservatively because of the reduced costs we had in some areas because of in-person training or virtual learning, things like that. So I did budget conservatively. So that has been validated, that number, and it is much higher. And then we also had kind of, because we were still under the state treasury oversight, we're able to get some additional assistance grants through them. So those are the two big items on the revenue side. One item that is more like it kind of is in and out is the debt refinancing. I mentioned that earlier of the 2018A. We have to gross up the revenues for the amount of the new loan and gross up the expenditures for paying off the old loan. So that's in there. You'll see that's kind of an in and out number. There are some deferrals of grants, which is not unusual with the ESSER, especially. Some of those costs are being pushed into fiscal year 23. Lower TAM borrowing, 3.5 million. I mentioned that earlier, that was the goal next year. We're actually able to do a chunk of that this year with the amendment. And then we about $2 million in grant revenues. We had that as a placeholder in Fund 110. That actually was spread out amongst expenditure accounts, so that was washed out through to where those dollars need to be. On the expenditure side of things, I mentioned the refinancing, the deferrals again, in and out for the grants. Again, due to the difficulty in finding drivers, our transportation program did not run at full capacity this year, although we met weekly to try to improve that, and we did improve it as the year went by. We're pretty much at full right now, very close to full, but there was since we're only paying for the amount of transportation that occurred, there was a savings this year in transportation. And then again, we did have ultimately unfilled positions in general fund and special ed, and those associated savings were included in here, as well as all the other small adjustments that are made throughout all the different account numbers. Next slide, please. I mentioned this in the public hearing, so I won't go over that again, but I'll just mention the last point that the current general fund, again, is supplemented by the ESSER dollars, which are one-time dollars. Next slide, please. So again, you can see the local portion, which is property taxes, primarily 99% of that is the largest chunk of revenues. And historically, it's even more than 34%, but because we have such a large sum of dollars, temporary one-time dollars with the ESSER COVID dollars, that has inflated the federal piece of the pie for a couple of years. But as those dollars will be spent, that will reduce, and the local portion will again go back to a larger portion of the pie. There's no significant changes on the state. I mentioned, I think, most of these categories in terms of the state revenues. The grant deferrals and federal, and then I mentioned the TAN borrowing and then the other items. So those are the major revenue changes for those funds. Next slide, please. On the expenditure side of things, and this is by function. So this is primarily instruction, and even support services probably includes categories that people would think are instruction. Counselors, for example, are very important. They're actually categorized as support services. Media specialists are support services. Physical therapists, all those kind of things. So there's a lot of things in support services that are captured in that amount. And then you have your administration, overall district-wide, and school administration, which is the office of the principal, business operations. We have operations and security, and that also includes custodial, grounds, and maintenance. I mentioned transportation, and then we have the central support, which is where technology and HR is, and also our retention payments that we've paid out of ESSER comes out of that category also. Significant changes, again, I think I pretty well went over all these in the summary, but you can see overall the expenditures are just over $102 million. Next slide, please. This again shows it a little more category, a little more breakdown of instructional services in the pupil service or the support services I mentioned. So you can see some more categories in there, but this basically shows it in terms of expenditures by function. So the fund balance increasing to $1.76 million is about a $650,000 or so increase. So the budget I just presented, the proposed budget, essentially would also go up, the fund balance projected in that by $650,000 also once. And again, that will be validated once the audit is complete in September. Next slide, please. Food service fund. These are the general categories. Again, the majority of it is federal grants in the food service fund. Next slide, please. I did want to mention with the food service fund, we've had some revenue issues with the food service program this year, and really there's two primary issues related to that. One is construction. We've had to close some cafeterias. We've had to move some cafeterias around, and the transportation issue with getting all the students to school. We had more, with students on virtual, and that reduced the amount of students that were eating and therefore could be reimbursed. So we are projecting about a little under a $200,000 shortfall this year in the food service program. Thankfully, we do have a fund balance, and we do not expect this to be an issue next year. We anticipate we're going to have full transportation and a full normal school year next year. So we believe this situation will right itself next year, but it's something that we are watching very closely. And I meet monthly with SFE, and this will be our major issue that we're going to track to make sure that we are looking good as once we start the school year and as we go through the year next year. Next slide, please. Student activity. Some of this is going to be redundant. It's going to be very similar to the public hearing, so I'm not going to go through all this, but certainly can answer any questions. Next slide, please. Next slide also. Next slide. Next slide. The sinking fund, again, was reduced slightly based on our spending this year. Next slide, please. You can see the projected ending fund balance for this year for the sinking fund is just under 3.6 million. And again, next year, as I mentioned earlier, we have the high school and middle school science labs, as well as potential repairs, technology, and security coming out of that fund. Next slide, please. And again, this is the first big year of spending for the bond issue. We've had a lot of construction that has occurred this year. We're expecting the total to be about 45 million through June 30th. Next slide, please. And you can see the estimated remaining Series 1 is about $56 million that will be carried forward into next year. Risk-related, again, no major changes in risk-related. Next slide, please. And again, we have a healthy fund balance in the risk-related fund. And that's my summary of the second budget amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up for comments to the trustees for the second budget amendment. Okay. None? Okay.
Can Jim please clarify the fund balance at this point in time based off of the amendment? I think it was not, was it 9.3?
Let me, can you go back up?
Fund balance. Sir,
It didn't, yes.
that's what we ending with?
No, overall, that's a cumulative.
It's
So it was-
it'd be near the beginning. It'd be the first one of these. So sorry, just keep going back. I'll keep going. Next one. That's it right there. So this amendment would have an ending fund balance of just $9.7 million. And again, we would add that then to the surplus that I presented earlier for next year's proposed budget. But again, this will not be official until the audit's complete, but the way I look at this amendment, and I probably should highlight a little bit more, it's really phenomenal. And the reason it's phenomenal is we increased our surplus by $650,000. But we also borrowed $3 million less in the TAN. And if you remember, I've talked about this a lot of times, it's treated as, if we borrow less money, it actually reduces our fund balance. Because when we first borrowed years ago, it increased the fund balance with that first borrowing. So it's interesting because the revenues in any year is a TAN that you borrow. And historically, we borrowed in January. Today, I just had the superintendent sign the first $5 million of borrowing in June. We used to have to do that in January. So by borrowing less through June 30th, that actually is a negative impact on the fund balance. But overall, it kind of weans us off of that, having to use that cash flow borrowing as a means to kind of supplementing the fund balance. So, and I said this way back when, but once we no longer borrow, in my mind, then we're really in the clear because it's kind of an artificial, I hate to say, accounting tool, but it's true. They treat a TAN as a long-term debt, and that's why it's treated that way. So we're able to reduce that and also still increase our surplus. So, and I would remind everybody, a lot of this is one-time stuff.
Yep.
The transportation, we hope, fixes itself. We've been working really hard on that. We hope we can hire staff and fill these positions. So I don't anticipate once we are fully functional the way we want to be that we're going to be able to do these kind of things. But make hay while the sun shines, right? So this is really setting us up. If you combine this with what we've done with the refinancings, I mean, not only do we increase our fund balance and get rid of a deficit, but we've also positioned ourselves much better for the future. And on top of that, add, the formula for wages, which I think does add stability also. So I probably should have expounded on that a little bit more, but
No, that was good. That's
but yeah, it's definitely, this is really, really good news for the general fund.
right. Thank you for highlighting that.
Any other comments? No? Okay. I think we probably in our next board retreat, which I think is in the fall, right?
Mhm.
So each board meeting, try to talk a little bit more about finance. Now that we live, put a portion in there where it's kind of, I mean, we get it because we hear it all the time, right? But if some way we can have, not a town hall, because those are not, in my opinion, not as effective as surveys, I'll be honest with you. But we need to start putting things in terms that the common person who pay their taxes understands it. Because what you just said, by setting us up in the long term, and no matter who's sitting in these seats, Pontiac fiscally will be okay. Whereas that in the past, we were other finance folk in that office. I'm just going, okay, because I'm not being politically correct right now because it confuses me when I start talking about money. 2 + 2 is 4 with me. So when you're allowed to say, hey, I'm going to borrow some money, but you can add that to your fund balance, but it's a long-term borrowing. And then people use that as, hey, no, we're in a good standings, and you're not. And then you sell that to the board, and people who are just here elected by the people, we're not finance people. We're not, of course, and that's one of the major functions of a board is to pass the budget, no matter what school district you're in. But you're telling them that everything is okay. And if you do that, this is okay, and you do it, but yet and still you still adding to your debt, then that's when it become that's the problem. And so that's why when I say transparency in this current administration, with the superintendent and with her team and with her cabinet, clearly understanding, not only just taking away those types of practices so you don't have to deal with the politics of the board, but just saying this is being upfront, just saying this is where we're at. And we no longer want to do that practice. So we're pushing towards not wanting to have long-term borrowing, this because that's exactly what it is, right? To kind of keep you pushing you in debt. And so I appreciate that. And thank you for making, I don't necessarily make it the hard choice of decisions when you're doing right on behalf of kids. I don't think it's hard. It's not hard to do right on the behalf of students. What's hard is adult egos. And trying and the politics of the board and I don't want to upset this person if this money ain't going to him. We ain't got it. And even though we have it right now, we still have to protect our future. So we have to act as if we don't have it. So we don't just have programs out here or money to donate to programs that's not been proven. No, I asked was any comments. So we're going to move forward. Well, okay. Yeah, if you could just pass it to the chair, and I'll make sure the
Well, I'll need the
superintendent can.
public to hear this because this is a common misconception that the public has, and they often ask me. And I
Okay.
need to know.
Excuse me.
Never
I
mind.
asked if there were any questions. So if you have a comment or a question, then just pass it to the board chair, and then I'll make sure the superintendent get it. But
And when will we be able to talk
Yeah.
about it?
yeah, we'll
in
be
a
able to talk
meeting?
about it in board governance.
No, I mean for the public in a public meeting.
Yeah,
the
it's
answer
a
to
public
the
meeting.
question.
The board governance is a public meeting. We'll be able to talk about it. So we're going to move down to now renewal of the property and casualty insurance. Superintendent, your meeting.
I would defer to Jim. You're back up.
Mr. Graham, this is the Mr. Graham show today.
Well, money's serious. That's why I'm wearing my suit. So, I don't have a presentation on this. I'm going to go off of memory
Okay.
because trying to get it on my computer. I'll tell you what, doing meetings remotely is actually easier than kind of looking at it. So it's been a while since I've done this. So I apologize.
If you want, I can give you you want the bear?
Sure.
We already went over the millage. We're
Yes.
at the property and casualty.
Property and casualty insurance.
Yes, thank you.
renewal.
I should
There
have
you go.
printed this stuff out.
No problem.
So again, this is something we do annually. We renew our property and casualty insurance. I mentioned this is accounted for in Fund 810. SETSEG is actually an organization that was developed by school districts years ago to give schools a good option for insurance coverage. And it's a pool fund, and there's over 525 members. I'm a very strong proponent of the program. The good news is the total premium renewal is about $498,000. However, that does include about $40,000 for builder's risk, which will be paid for out of the bond fund. So the net increase of $422,763, after taking into account our refund we get through what's called a net asset return, it's actually about a 4.8 reduction versus last year. And I think that's important because everything's going up right now. And I was trying to get a statistic from SETSEG. I wasn't able to get it, but generally this cost is going up in school districts as the value of construction goes higher. So to not only have no increase, but have a reduction is significant in terms of what we've done here in Pontiac. I know this premium was, I believe, like $700,000 a few years ago. And as we've improved our buildings, done the right things, we've been able to get a reduction on that, and I hope that would continue. So this is the renewal of property and casualty insurance. It covers commercial property. It also covers cyber liability and terrorism, our equipment, crime, and general liability coverage, as well as auto. And cyber liability is a big deal. SETSEG has done a lot this year to try to stem the cyber perpetrators, and we've put a lot more in place to try to defend the district against cyber attacks. So that has been a focus this year by the district and by SETSEG. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, open up for comments. First round. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move down to item B on the amended agenda. It was the PASA contract, and I turn it over to the hands of the superintendent.
Thank you. We are excited. The team has done a great job negotiating contracts, ensuring that at this time we are able to provide give backs to employees that have taken huge concessions over the years. And it feels good to be able to provide a sound budget that includes salary steps as well as increases based off of our tax base and the formula that Jim has spoke about. I want to commend the negotiating committee as well as PASA for working with the district in being able to provide you with a sound contract that Daryl will expound on further. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Seekers.
Thank you, Superintendent. So the district and the Pontiac Association of School Administrators, PASA, entered into contract negotiations this spring, and after engaging in several sessions, have agreed to the attached document. The attached document, a tentative agreement, TA, sets forth the major changes that were made to the PASA/Pontiac School District Collective Bargaining Agreement as a result of these negotiations. This TA represents a 4-year agreement that provides for salary increases tied to the district's fiscal capacity to increase wages. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Education approve the attached tentative agreement between the district and the Pontiac Association of School Administrators.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the board? Going once. First round. Any comments? Okay. It's a tough crowd. All right, I'm really excited about the contract. Specifically speaking, the timeline to it. Had a closed session about it to kind of go into details. I truly believe that we are definitely moving in the right direction as it relates to where we want to be and how we want to get there. Not necessarily just where we want to be, but how we want to get there. And so even during this whole process, the budget process, this new contract, being an old dog, no pun intended, gross, on the board, being back for my second time around, superintendents had to actually walk me through some things, right? So I would like to chalk it up as being in a bad domestic or a bad relationship. And so I had to renew how to be in a relationship when it comes down to budget and contracts, because I get very intense. My anxiety kind of builds up around that. So appreciate your patience with me. And so that just says for growth. So I wanted to be transparent about that. I get anxiety when I start talking about giving away money. I don't care if it's $1, but that's just me, period. But just talking about where our teachers were and where administrators were and all of the things that we're doing to get to right size the ship and turn it around. And we just going off our own dock now. And I can see us, sailing in a great direction. Not saying everything is going to be easy, but at least we have a great roadmap, if that makes sense. And my hope is that everybody understands that we are here for the children of this district. If no children walk through the door, there's no need for any of these services or meetings or contracts or lights being on. And so understanding, as long as we understand that, I'm okay. So we're going to move down to, thank you all. We're going to move down to action item. I need approval of the 2022-2023 millage rate. Motion on the floor. I need a motion.
So move.
So moved by Trustee Davis Smith,
Support.
supported by Trustee Bowman. Questions, comments, or concerns to that action item? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, roll call.
Trustee Terry,
Yes.
Trustee Turpin,
Yes.
Vice President Bowman,
Yes.
Treasurer Davis Smith,
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes, and Trustee Yana.
Yes.
Sir, action item 6A2A pass 7-0.
All right. Thank you. I need a motion on the floor for the approval of the property and casualty insurance renewal.
So move.
So moved by Trustee Davis Smith,
Support.
supported by Trustee Bowman. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Turpin,
Yes.
Vice President Bowman,
Yes.
Treasurer Davis Smith,
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah
Yes.
and Trustee Terry.
Yes.
Sir, that passed 7-0.
Okay. Moving down to item 6
B.
6-2C. It moves to action. Yeah.
6B3. Yeah, 3 action. Yes.
Yep. Need a motion on the floor for approval of the proposed Pontiac Association of School Administrators 2022. Saying this number just sounds weird to me. 2026 contract. Need a motion on the floor.
So move.
So moved by Trustee
Support.
Bowman, supported by Trustee Terry. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bowman,
Yes.
Treasurer Davis Smith,
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah,
Yes.
Trustee Terry,
Yes.
and Trustee Turpin.
Yes.
Sir, that passed 7-0.
Thank you. We want to move down to the Embassy of Spain presentation, Superintendent. It's going to be under General Counsel, Human Resources.
Thank you. Unfortunately, our presenters or representatives from the Embassy of Spain had to get off the call to attend another meeting, but Ms. Kellum has done a great job with working alongside with the group as well as Dr. Eccles. We're excited to enter into this great partnership, and we just want to share out the information to date where we are with the partnership that we will be moving into. Ms. Kellum, if you are prepared, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Cynthia, do I have sharing rights?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, can you progress for me? Something's wrong with my screen. It's not moving. It's fine. Just got here.
Ms. Kellum,
Cynthia, can you hear me?
Ms. Kellum, if you would like to come over into the boardroom, if you're
Okay,
still, yeah,
thank you.
and I can give you the hard copy of it.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Wright, if you can pull up the presentation, if you have it on the screen.
Good evening.
And voila, there she is. You just
I think it may be turned off. Jim may have turned it off.
Good evening again.
Thank you.
I will be presenting in place of the Embassy of Spain, and Dr. Eccles is on the call as well. I want to just talk about the partnership that we wanted to go into with the Embassy of Spain and give you some history about it. It's called the Sagamore Institute, the J1 Teacher Exchange Program. The Sagamore Institute was founded in 2004 by Jay Hen with the support of then U.S. Ambassador to Germany, Dan Coates. With roots deeply planted in America's heartland, Sagamore scholar practitioners have always sought to deliver wise counsel to a world of progress. Some of the areas that they cover will be Global Index of Economic Openness, Launch, Africa Rising, Transatlantic Relations, Asia, Mexico and Latin America, Indiana Global Connections, Thinking Globally, and J1 Visa Program. Just a little bit of history of the J1 program. The J1 history program goes back to 1961 and the institution of the Mutual Educational and Cultural Exchange Act, created by Senator J. William Fulbright. The Act's purpose was to increase understanding between people of different nations through the common goal of promoting education and cultural understanding. The Exchange Visitor Program fosters global understanding through educational and cultural exchanges. All exchange visitors are expected to return to their home country upon completion of their program in order to share their exchange experiences. It is important to note that the J1 Exchange Visitor Program is not a pathway to permanent residency in the USA. Some of the benefits would be educational and cultural enrichment. Exchange teachers sharpen their professional skills and participate in cross-cultural activities in schools and communities. And they return to their home school after the exchange to share their experiences and increase knowledge of the United States and US educational system. They'll bolster communication and cultural understanding, broaden perspectives of students and staff, build connections to a community across the globe, and investigate cultural comparisons. In the next page, you will see global competencies, where they investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicate ideas, and take action. So there's 4 domains of global competence. The J1 process for teachers. All teachers must be qualified. Qualifications will be needed for 2 years of teaching experience in their home country. Qualified to teach in home country, currently teaching or have an actual graduate degree currently. Confident in ability to manage in a classroom in English. Outstanding character and flexible spirit. Physical and mental fortitude to leave home for an extended period of time. Then they will also have to apply to the program, interview for teaching positions. Sagamore Institute will process the visa paperwork, interview at a U.S. embassy in home country, arrive in the United States and attend orientation, and then begin to teach in the United States. The teacher requirements: you must teach K through 12, not in community colleges or pre-K programs. Must be a lead classroom teacher, not a peer educator or guidance counselor or librarian. Must speak English well enough to lead a classroom. If not teaching in home country, must have a cultural activity partner school for exchange type activities. Cultural activity reports: 2 types of activities a year: 1, sharing cultural, and 2, connecting with people. The process for the schools would be, the school must be accredited. K-12 academic program, offer a salary at a commensurate rate as a teacher employed in a similar school. Application to Sagamore, offer letter to the teacher, participate in a school orientation, welcome the teacher, provide tour of the community, help them get their social security card, assist with HR processes. Expect to offer assistance the first 2 months until the teacher is settled into an apartment and has a car. Provide a mentor teacher, a go-to person for classroom management issues. And then some of the common questions are licensure. The first step: teachers need to get their credentials evaluated by an approved evaluator. How many years can a teacher stay in the USA? The first visa is for 3 years, and then a teacher can ask the sponsor to file for a 2-year extension. Can a spouse work in the United States? Yes. If a spouse enters the USA on a valid J-2 dependent visa, then they can apply for employment authorization, obtain a social security number, and be employed in any industry. So we talked a little bit more about this during board retreat, where we wanted to kind of partner and try to go globally and bring some of these teachers in, particularly in our CTE programs and our hard to fill classrooms. So that's where we will start with our CTE programs. And Dr. Sherman, I believe, is on the call as well, if you have additional questions.
Okay, board, I'll open up for questions. First round. No questions. Okay, I have a particular question. So when the this exchange program, we go through it, we get it, it's up and running. So when you say particular the CTE programs, can you say specifically which programs, like which classrooms?
Sure. Dr. Sherman, can you share,
Yeah.
elaborate on what classrooms you're looking to fill first?
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I am looking to find someone in particular for our IT positions and our hospitality and tourism positions. Those are the 2 that we are seeking individuals with that background and expertise. And so those are our high needs and high priorities for right now.
As well as foreign language for
Okay.
the other side of, which when we had the call, they expressed that they could possibly fill some of our foreign language positions in the school.
Okay. And I guess that was part of my initial, by them being bilingual,
Mm-hmm.
would we want to go the bilingual route first, or if there are any other positions in the ELA program that we want to
Absolutely.
fulfill first.
Yes.
Before I understand the CTE, I get it. But we have a population of students in which I knew of and working, but
Mhm.
you sent a video earlier
Yes.
that kind of really put that 8 minutes put some real perspective into
Yes.
this. And I saw this coming up, and I'm just one trustee, but if I understand the CTE program, but if we get someone who's bilingual like this and we understand where they're coming from, that our Spanish is a first language,
Mm-hmm.
to be politically correct, speaking citizens
Mm-hmm.
have an opportunity first.
Mm-hmm.
And if we get more into hospitality or however that works, but to fill
Absolutely.
out some of those bilinguals first, and then
And core areas as
Yeah.
well. We're open. And so
Okay.
Dr. Sherman brought us this program to us. So we
Awesome.
wanted to make sure that
gotcha.
we met her need, because she did bring the program to the district. But we're excited because I think we will be afforded to fill other positions as well
Okay.
that may be outside of CTE. So
Awesome.
we're open for it.
We did share that with the representatives when we talked, that we wanted to fill across all genres of what we have
Mhm.
vacancies for. So they're going to work with us on all of our vacancies.
Okay. And I definitely understand the hospitality piece
Mhm.
because you want our kids to travel internationally.
Right.
And we do have a lot of international travels,
Mhm.
you know, that comes out. They are seeking individuals, students coming out of high school to fulfill those positions in all of these different resorts and things of that nature. And if our kids have that opportunity, Dr. Sherman, I see your vision. I see you, you know, but you know, I definitely agree with that as well. So, okay. Trustee Hannah, second round.
Could this start with teachers in the classroom this fall? Is that the goal?
Yes, that is the goal. As soon as we get approval, we will start interviewing and start getting some of these individuals in. We need to start now because some of them are being placed already in other school districts.
Okay.
They didn't got caught. Man, what we doing now? You still got the floor. You good? Okay. Trustee Terry.
So 2 questions. Do we have an exact number we're looking for as far as, I guess, bringing them in for this program? And then number 2, from the school board side, what obligations are they looking for from us? I know it's a program, but is there anything from our end that we need to contribute or
Yes,
they're
so
looking for?
to answer your first question, we don't have a set number. It just depends on how many resumes that they have coming in and what areas they have this certification in is where they can bring how many individuals they'll be able to bring in. And the requirement is for the district sets the requirement. So we are asking for them to at least be able to commit to the 2 years and do the extension of the total of 3 years, so that they'll remain in district and teach for 3 years. But they do have to go back to their home country and share out what they've learned, and then they have the option to come back.
On a financial side, we are not required to pay anything. They're just asking that we have a welcome committee to ensure that they're able to get housing and a car, social security number. And so that will be the district's obligation to have that welcome committee for them, as well as to add to what Ms. Kellum stated. We still have 17 core vacancies, 27 special ed. So that's our number that we need to fill, whether it's between the Davenport University scholarships, this program. Those are the numbers that we currently have to fill within the district.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Actually, to Trustee Terry's point, that welcome committee, is it possible that we can get Central involved as far as it's our largest nonprofit Latino profit community, Dr. Acosta and Deborah Ermins?
Absolutely.
We would love to host them and welcome them as they come inside the district. And that's a service that we provide already to the community.
Absolutely.
So if that would be something that
Yes.
we would gladly do.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Kellum, for coming around and
Sure.
sharing the
I'm
presentation.
going to stay here at the
Okay.
podium because I have a couple others to
All
do.
right. Yeah, right. We're going to move down to end of the year evaluations and ratings.
I would like to be able to present for this one on the screen, if you don't mind.
Ms. Kellum, Ms. Wright, there you
Thank
go.
you. So this is the administrator evaluation presentation. This is the end of the year report that we do every year on the all of the administrators in the central office. That includes principals and supervisors. So this is the evaluation system. School Advance is a research-supported framework with tools and training to assist schools and districts in developing an educator evaluation system to support learning, growth, and adaptation for teachers and administrators at the school and district level. School Advance is also an aligned system for administrator evaluation tools, processes, and training for principals and district leaders. And as you see here, principals and district leaders, which will include all of central office, are evaluated up under this framework. Next slide.
Ms. Wright, can you go to the next slide? Thanks.
Thank you. Maybe she didn't hear. I'm sorry. Excerpt of school code. So this is just a piece of the school code, the Michigan School Code 380.1249, which says evaluates the teachers and administrators' job performance at least annually while providing timely and constructive feedback, establishes clear approaches to measuring student growth, and provides teachers and administrators with relevant data on student growth, evaluates teachers and administrators' job performance using multiple rating categories that take into account data on student growth, uses the evaluations to inform decisions regarding the effectiveness of teachers and administrators, promotion, retention, and development of administrators, whether to grant tenure or full certification, and the removal of ineffective tenured and untenured administrators. Next slide. So for the 2020-2021 School Administrators Evaluation, Public Act 173 also created Section 1249B of the revised school code, which addresses school administrator evaluations. The portion of a school administrator's annual year-end evaluation that is not based on the student growth and assessment data must be based primarily on a school administrator's performance as measured by the selected evaluation tool. Portion of a school administrator's annual year-end evaluation that is not based on student growth, assessment data, or the administrator's performance as measured by the selection evaluation tool must incorporate at least the school administrator's proficiency in using the evaluation tool for teachers used by the school district, the progress made by the school district in meeting the goals set forth in its school improvement plan, pupil attendance in the school district, and student parent and teacher feedback as available, and other information considered pertinent to the administrator's evaluation. Responsibilities of lead building administrators is to conduct or designate another person to conduct at least annual evaluations of all teachers, provide meaningful full feedback to teachers within 30 days after each observation, use observation and student growth data to align professional learning to teacher need, to collaboratively develop specific performance goals in the annual year-end evaluation during feedback sessions with the teacher. Develop an individual development plan, which is considered an IDP, for any teacher in the first year of the probationary period, full year of employment, or who received a rating of minimally effective or ineffective on his or her most recent annual year-end evaluation. It's in non-instructional performance. The school advanced non-instructional administrative staff performance. I'm sorry, Cynthia, thank you. Administrative staff performance review and develop process is designed to provide specific and timely feedback to all personnel on key performance indicators. The purpose of this feedback is to provide staff with recognition of their accomplishments and contributions to the organization, along with a means to identify growth edges that could enhance performance. Growth edges are simply areas where it is possible to develop further in the conduct of a person's job. Everyone has growth. The next slide just shows the actual evaluation tool that is used for a principal and a building leader. Then you have the one for the district leader, which is the principal and district leader framework. And then the next one we'll see will be the non-instructional administrator, anyone that does not have a role in instructional support for students. And this will be the framework that's used for them. Next slide. Then levels of performance. The school advanced rubrics are organized around 4 levels of performance as required by the state of Michigan statute: highly effective, effective, minimally effective, and ineffective. Next slide. So this evaluation timeline is from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. So you see here we had a total of 45 administrators evaluated. You had 22 highly effective, 22 effective, and you have 1 administrator that's minimally effective. Next slide. This is a 2-year comparison from 2021 to 2022. So you will see for 2020 and 2021, you had 19 highly effective, and you had 24 effective. For 2021, 2022, you had 22 highly effective and 24 effective. And in each year, you had 1 minimally effective administrator. Principals are 100% complete. All evaluations are completed. Personal growth model is complete. Principals effective to minimally effective. District leaders are 100% complete. Personal growth model complete, and central office staff effective or highly effective. I do have one administrator that is minimally effective. That person will be placed on an IDP for the 22-23 school year. Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Trustee Turpin. Your mic. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I know we have people on leave, sick leave, long-term leave. When are they evaluated? When they come back?
I don't have any administrators that are on a leave of
Or
absence.
just about staff, teachers? So-
Teaching staff, they are evaluated when they come back. So we can only
Okay.
evaluate them from the point of when they left and then when they come back. So they get another observation after. If
Okay,
they're not,
so they're basically incomplete at this point.
yes, they're incomplete.
All right, thank you.
You still have the floor.
I'm finished,
You good?
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Gross.
Absolutely did. The No Child Left Behind regulations have no longer been fulfilled.
Correct. It's not called No Child Left Behind. It's
It's called Give Up Your Hope.
what is it called now? I can't even think of it.
I was about to crack a joke. I'm sorry.
ESA?
Uh,
Is it ESA?
no,
ESSA?
it changed from that
No.
too.
Change from that too? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Where I'm going is that
The Bessie DeVos. No, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I was
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
If a teacher, or I'm sorry, if a principal did not reach, sorry, Frank, if a principal did not reach AYP for a certain amount of years, then that principal was no longer with that district.
That no longer exists. AYP does not exist. We now use index scores,
Wonderful.
and it's now built into the growth module, how much growth they have shown with their students. 50% is what is required to meet at least effective for the growth.
Okay, now I don't want to get rid of anyone because we need people now. But I'm glad I asked that question because I was under the
Yeah. No more
no,
AYP.
so we were under still AYP.
Nope.
Thank you. Thank you.
That man said AYP.
That was with Dibbles and
Man, so I do. I was young, old. You know what I mean? I needed some help during this time, this amendment, this budget practice. I'm with you. I'm with you. I was young, old.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
I'll report out for teachers next month. I'm sorry, in the next board meeting.
Okay.
We just
Awesome.
received the final evaluations on June 10th, so we'll be reporting out for teachers on June 27th.
Okay. Thank you. We're gonna move down to discussion item ESS Midwest LLC contract. Superintendent and Ms. Kellum.
I'll defer to Ms. Kellum.
Thank you. So this is a new contract I'm bringing before the board. ESS Midwest LLC. ESS Midwest LLC is a staffing company that is able to provide qualified staff to backfill short-term and long-term vacant teaching positions throughout the school buildings, which we are unable to fill with permanent employees. We will utilize them to fill vacancies to ensure positions that cannot be filled by our other substitute staffing companies. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Education discuss and approve the service agreement between ESS Midwest LLC and the Pontiac School District for substitute teacher contracted services effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, in an amount not to exceed $1 million.
All right. Any questions around the substitute contract? Any questions? Trustee Turpin?
So, Ms. Kellum, you were saying this is number 2, this is second staffing agency, or are we replacing one?
So we will be replacing one. So I have this contract, this will be number 2, and then I have another one. We're trying to cover, we're vying for the same candidates through other school districts. So us adding additional substitute companies will give us the opportunity to be able to fill some of the absences that we have as well as vacancies.
So do you think that the pool out there is big enough for all the districts with all their needs? I mean, I just just wondering, because you said we're all pulling from the same pool. So how would a second company, I mean, I'm not trying to be.
So
I'm
if
just
we
trying to
don't have a-
understand the concept.
Yes, so if we don't have an additional company, we have nowhere else to pull from.
Okay.
So we would need to have an additional sub company to be
Okay.
able to use. And right now we only have the two, and we only have 5 long-term subs at the one company. They were not able to fill any of our other vacancies this
Okay.
year.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good strategy, good question. You done?
Yes.
Elizabeth? Okay. Trustee Terry?
Yes. So in regards to the amount not to exceed the $1 million, I just want to confirm the funding for this. Would this be taken
Trustee
out?
Terry, can you bring your mic up just a little bit?
Sorry. Trying to, maybe I should just talk straight. But I know she over here, but we're gonna work that out. Can you hear me now? That
Mhm.
better? Okay, better. So for the 1 million, I just wanted to confirm, as far as the funding goes, does that come out of the budget for the teachers and substitute? Or is this a different funding altogether in regards to our proposed budget?
So we have a substitute line item that comes from my HR budget. We have budgeted for every school year.
Okay, so to be put out of those funds, and those
Yes.
are already included.
Already
in the
included in the budget.
Proposed budget.
And that's to not exceed, if we don't get the subs that they can provide us, we don't use the dollars. So it's only as used that we use that budget.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
If I may add for the question,
go ahead.
what replaced No
Mhm.
Child Left Behind was Every Student Succeeds Act. So it is the ESSA.
That was the Bessie DeVos?
Yes.
Yeah,
Didn't go too far, but
okay. Yeah, you thought I was being funny. It was, yes, you did. Your Trustee Hannah thought I was being funny. I was dead serious. It's the Bessie DeVos movement. I did not bring anything political into this conversation yet, but I just didn't think of the name. I knew it was Bessie DeVos, but yeah, you see. Okay, all right. But I think it's a good strategy because some substitutes, what I found, substitute teaching when they're applying, some districts only have one. They're applying for a specific one, and we at least have on board these different companies that offer that service. Kind of helps us out in the meantime until we can get some full-time teachers in here. So, okay. Any other questions?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, are you still on? I was checking on our board member. Are we still on
Yeah,
A? Oh,
we're still on A. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to move down to Midwest Guest Teachers Contract.
Ms. Cullen?
Yes, so this is Midwest Guest Teachers. The same background rationale. Midwest Guest Teachers is a staffing company that is able to provide qualified staff to backfill short-term and long-term vacant teaching positions throughout the school buildings, which we are unable to fill with permanent employees. We will utilize them to fill vacancies to ensure positions that cannot be filled by our other substitute companies. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Education discuss and approve the service agreement between Midwest Guest Teachers and the Pontiac School District, a substitute teacher contracted services effective July 1, 22 through June 30, 23, in the amount not to exceed $1 million.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Turpin.
Ms. Kellum, are we competitive with our pay?
Yes, we are actually exceeded. We're number 2, maybe number 2 in the county.
Oh, good, because there's a misconception about the
That-
pay
yeah.
scale, so thank you for
We've
that.
increased it twice this school year, so we are actually one of the highest paid paying for our subs.
So that's not a deterrent? That's-
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. We're going to move down to Soliant Health contract renewal.
Thank you. This is a contract renewal with Soliant Health for 22-23 professional services. The purpose of this contract is to provide services for occupational therapy, speech language pathology, and physical therapy, school psychology to students with disabilities as specified by their IEP, individual education plan. Federal and state regulations require that OT, SLP, PT, and SLP services be provided to students as stipulated in their IEPs. This contract will ensure the continuation for students who qualify for these services from July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Education approve the professional services contract for occupational therapy, speech language pathology, and physical therapy, school psychologists with Salient Health and the Pontiac School District effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. That's a typo. It should be 2023. Any amount not to exceed $1 million.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, we're going quick.
Go ahead, Trustee
So it
Gross.
says renewal, we've used them before.
Yes,
And who evaluates them in their service?
I'm sorry, Superintendent. Dr. Jameson
Dr.
does.
Jameson?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it's obvious that bringing them back, we're fine.
Dr. Jameson is requesting that this contract be renewed. Yes.
Oh, I trust her. No, yes,
Hey, man, listen, trust is important.
it is. I trust her.
And when the information that you're coming from, I mean, that's important.
And in addition, you do also have their evaluation attached.
Yes.
I knew that, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. We're going to move. Any other questions around that? Okay, going to move on to Article 14 calendar. I think we're done with Ms. Kellum.
Sorry,
Superintendent?
Attorney Seegers?
Sure. Good evening again, Board. The district has had discussions with the Pontiac Education Association as it relates to the calendar for next year, fiscal year 2022/2023. That draft calendar is attached here to the bear. And this board should note that the first day of school will be on September 6, 2022, the day after Labor Day. The calendar is part of the attached tentative agreement. It is a recommendation of administration that the Pontiac Board of Education approve the TA between the Pontiac Education Association and the district regarding the draft fiscal year 22-23 calendar.
Okay. Any questions? And again, okay, go ahead, Trustee Gross.
By approving this today, do we have to approve any other changes, drastic changes, anything that may occur through the year? Does it have to come to a vote by this board?
Yes, if there's anything that changes with the calendar, we will bring
Yes.
it back to the
Bring it
board
back to
as
the
an
board.
amendment. But we haven't experienced that in the past. I think maybe one time over my tenure.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? I got a question for Trustee Gross. You plan on changing the calendar?
No, man.
Oh, I'm just asking. I just thought I would ask you. You know what I'm saying? If you had plans, I was like, you know. Oh, okay. All right. That's cool. So, but that is a good question. Like snow days, things of that nature that come up, like
Yeah, we have forgiveness for those.
Forgiveness for those.
Built in.
Built in.
is already built into these
Yep.
days. Okay.
Mhm.
If I may.
Yeah. No, go ahead, sir.
And the reason I asked, giving an example, like for the county, because June 10th was approved by the president, and it took for the Michigan Supreme Court to approve it for every court, and now we're able to have, if it falls on a Sunday, that Monday off. That's a change of the calendar.
Correct.
And so, if the district, I don't know if we recognize Juneteenth as a paid vacation day for our.
Yeah, unfortunately, we will not be able to do it this school year because that's our first day of summer school. So we did not need to bring it back to the board
Right.
because we're not going to have that Monday off. That's the first day of our
Right, well,
summer
then
school.
that it would affect, yeah, 'cause school is out anyway, just
Yes.
this summer. But I'm saying these are the type of things that would affect
Correct.
your calendar.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So to those of you who have the Juneteenth question, school will be out in the summer. We'll bring this back up in the next calendar school year. That has to be negotiated on, not this school year. So, okay, we clear.
I didn't get you right.
No, I know you didn't bring that
I want
up.
the community to think, oh,
No, I
everybody
just-
recognize the Juneteenth. No, and I'm glad you said that.
No, that's I know where I live. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, I just know. So I would want it off. I'll put it in the calendar. Okay, any other questions around the Article 14 calendar? All right, we're gonna move down to the City of Pontiac temporary construction easement. Superintendent, I turn the meeting over to you.
Attorney Seegers.
The City of Pontiac has requested a temporary construction easement on the District 60 Parkhurst property, which is where WHRC is, for the removal of the pedestrian bridge that goes over Auburn Avenue. The city is willing to give the district $150 for the use of the easement. The construction or the destruction of the bridge, the cost will be borne exclusively by the city. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Education approve the City of Pontiac temporary construction easement request.
And if I may clarify, the $150 is given to us because this is an ask that we have been asking the city for the portion that is on our property, which is unsafe, to the community. And they have done their due diligence to honor our request, found a grant to demolish the bridge, the crossing. So we do appreciate them hearing our request to ensure that we keep the community safe as well as our students. And them giving us the $150 is basically paperwork and the time for Daryl.
Yeah.
You're worth $150, buddy.
I'm worth a little more than that.
That's what I was saying. Any questions, comments, concerns to that? And Alex Borgesser, who's our over at the city, who does all of the grant writing now. She is actually, she found it, and charged by the mayor to find more money and to go after more money to do special projects like this. So just all transparency. I was aware it was just $150, we'll talk about that a little later. But to have this done for the safety, and this was brought up in closed session as well. But we talked about the safety for our students. Nobody uses the bridge. We understand where it's at. And it's just, it really is an eyesore. And it's a lot of, with that new auxiliary, I would like to say, building attached to WHRC and the multi-use and all the things we're going to be able to get out of it. Children, oh, I know you looking like, yeah, we got something over at Chandler Street. You got to check that out. Yeah, you got to check that out. That east side is growing over there. We don't want you don't want, it could be a wedding over there or anything. And, kids will, they will find their way. So one less thing we'll have to worry about, and I appreciate it. So let's see. We're going to move down to action items. Can I get a motion on the floor to combine action items A, B, C, D, and E?
So moved.
So moved by Trustee Davis Smith, supported by Trustee Turpin. Questions, comments, concerns about the combination for action items, combining the action items? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Treasurer Davis Smith,
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah,
Yes.
Trustee Terry,
Yes.
and Trustee Turpin.
Yes.
Sir, combination pass 6-0.
All right, thank you. You need approval to approve the combined action items. Need a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Trustee Davis
Support.
Smith, supported by Trustee Hannah. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Garrett,
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah,
Yes.
Trustee Terry,
Yes.
Trustee Turpin, Treasurer Davis Smith.
Yes.
Sir, 6-0.
All right, thank you. We're going to move down to the district-wide, discussion item about district-wide teacher chair purchases. Superintendent?
Thank you. At this time, I will defer to Mr. England to read the bear.
Evening, Board and Superintendent. Robert England, Facilities Director. The item that we have, first item is discussion and action for the approval of district-wide teacher chairs. Facilities has been working with curriculum technology, yes, which is our architect, to select new chairs for the teachers district-wide. IDS has sent a survey to the Pontiac School District teachers to select its new chair. Below is the chair that was selected, teachers, and it will be purchased from a cooperative from National Business Solutions. On the second page of the bear, you'll see the breakdown of how many chairs will be going into each building and the associated costs. And again, this is going to be out of the bond purchase for what we call FF&E. So there's a total dollar amount, and the board is, it is the recommendation that the Board of Education approve the district-wide chairs from National Business Solutions in the amount not to exceed $127,733. Take note that there is no contingency on this. We do not expect any cost. These are delivered costs to the site.
Thank you, Mr. England. I didn't expect to give you any contingency on chairs. Any questions from the comments from the board? So let me get this. We had new desks, or we were purchasing desks for, I know we had the mobile stations for the teachers. Did any teachers get like stationary desks? I know we were talking about that.
Right now, we have not purchased the stationary desks.
Okay.
So these are the chairs. And I'm not sure, Mr. England, do we have the bid out yet for the actual stationary desk?
Yes, we've purchased quite a few of them actually.
Oh, have we? Okay.
It has been to the board for approval. There is another order that's still coming in, and that's kind of the rush for the discussion and action. We're hoping to get most of this in place for when they return.
I recall the rolling ones that rolled around. So we actually purchased stationary as well. That came to the board. Okay.
Ergotrans was
It
kind of
wasn't
the
as
mobile
many.
one.
It didn't cover all of the teachers because with the movement and all that. I just was kind of curious to figure out what actually desk kind of purchased, because if it was good enough for a teacher, it was good enough for me. I'm just asking, you know.
Thank you for the
Just
clarity.
saying. All right, thank you. We're going to move down to any questions around that. I'm sorry. All right. Okay, thank you. We're going to move down to Pontiac Middle School, Pontiac High School science lab upgrades. Okay.
Mr. England?
Yes, again, this is something we've been waiting for a long time. We're very excited to get this on the agenda. This is both discussion and action for the approval of the Pontiac High School and Pontiac Middle School science lab upgrades. May 26, 2022, proposals were received for the middle school and the high school science labs. The full renovation of both of the Pontiac Middle School and Pontiac High School science labs, similar to the science labs at WHRC. You'll see the breakdown per category that was awarded, and then the contractor and the dollar amount for each of these. Again, this is a funding source from the sinking fund, as Tim alluded to. This is some of the monies that we are going to be using the sinking fund for. Recommendation is for the administration that the Pontiac Board of Education and the Pontiac Middle School and High School Science Labs upgrade project in the amount of $2,033,781, plus a 20% contingency of the amount of $406,756, for a total not to exceed amount of $2,440,537. Again, these upgrades will be done. The middle school will be done during the period that the children are out of there from this June until next January. And then the swing space area where the other high school science lab will be done while that area is. So we're very excited to get this going. And Juan Vescas III and Brian Ingram are both on the call. If you have any questions about the bid, the tabulations, or any of the contract.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Any questions? Okay. I would just like to say that I'm glad we are going live so that we now people start hearing the dollar amounts that's being put into the schools. It's steady just saying we're upgrading, we're doing this, we're doing that. And when you put millions of dollars into a certain part of your school or a certain part of your process, if you will, like, okay, let's take these science labs. Okay. this is just me. The expectation is that we taking a full advantage of the kids who want to use them, and the kids need to take advantage of it. So again, we are putting ourselves in a position to compete and expose our kids to the top-notch technology around what everybody across the country is screaming about science, right? And so putting this type of information or putting a dollar amount behind it shows our commitment to that. And I want to thank the administration and this team. I know because of lead time items, we've discussed that, and supplies and things of that nature. It's not an easy task doing this whole bond. We really pushed the bond through and really got some things accomplished during a whole pandemic. So, and we have some great teams and great partners that's helping us get through that. And I wanted to publicly say that, okay? If we can move down to WHRC Special Education Classroom Furniture. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. England.
Thank you again. This is the beginning process of our evaluation of our special ed children throughout the district. The first building is the discussion and action for the approval of the WHRC Special Education Classroom Furniture. So you'll see in the board packet description of the furniture, the layout of the classroom. So these are in the south wing of WHRC, room S1 through S4. And then the S7 room is what we call a sensory room. These are all layouts are on there. You'll see the furniture that's being picked and the layout of that furniture in each of the rooms in your board packet. And then there'll be some graphic pictures in there of each of the items that are going to be in the room. And the associated costs, the breakdown on the last page. I really want to thank Dr. Jameson and Dr. Eccles, because this was very interesting aspect for me to see all of the things that they do in these classrooms for the children. And it's very, very unique furniture. And I know IDS has some specialized folks that work in this, and along with Dr. Jameson, they were very excited to come up with items that are in the room. So this will carry forward onto next week. We'll be bringing you the middle school for several of the rooms that are over there, and eventually moving to Kennedy and the other schools. So just the beginning of an upgrade of something that we are in desperate need of for quite a while. So I'm ready to bring this forward. Again, it is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education approve the purchase of special education furniture for WHRC in the amount not to exceed $48,178.26. And this is part of the bond series 1, and this does not have a contingency. We do not expect related cost in these rooms. Only unfortunate thing is we do not think that we will get this for September when they start, but we will get this swapped out as soon as we can. Probably be in October or November of this school year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Understandable. So any questions from the board? No questions? Okay, thank you. Just, I appreciate when I looked at the packet and the type of furniture, our kids, you know, that student population, we don't need the older furniture where they can hurt themselves. You know, it's unpredictable. And it kind of, you know, it kind of put me in the mind of, like, when I see stuff like this come before the board, and again, my old dog just talking right now, we didn't have where they communicated with teachers or communicated with that particular special ed, that's particular need group. They just bought furniture, right? And they just threw it in there. And to see that teamwork working through the system, right? To me, that's what we're supposed to be doing. You know, we're not supposed to be working in silos, and we're not. And this is proof of that. So when I saw the furniture, I was like, okay, yeah, and it helps with even restraint if it has to happen to that. But thank you. Need a motion on the floor we're going to move down to the action items. Need a motion on the floor to combine the action items A, B, and C under C2.
So move.
So moved by trustee David Smith,
Support.
supported by trustee Hannah. Questions, comments, or concerns about the combination? Hearing none, roll call.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Hannah,
Yes.
trustee Terry,
Yes.
trustee Turpin,
Yes.
treasurer David Smith,
Yes.
President Garrett.
Yes.
To combine, sir, 6-0.
All right, thank you. Need a motion on the floor to approve the combined action items.
So move.
So moved by trustee Smith,
Support.
supported by trustee Hannah. Questions, comments, or concern to approve the combined action items? Hearing none, roll call.
Trustee Hannah,
Yes.
trustee Terry,
Yes.
trustee Turpin,
Yes.
treasurer David Smith,
Yes.
President Garrett,
Yes.
and I'm voting yes, sir. Pass 6-0.
All right, thank you. We're going to move down to any communications, petitions, and delegations. VP did not leave me with any. Okay. And then we'll move down to board comments and announcements. Trustee Terry, sir, good evening. The floor is yours, sir. Okay, you got time.
All right, thank you, thank you. Let me go first. I feel special over here, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. First of all, I just want to say, great meeting tonight. A lot of information got covered, but it was worth it to be here, to see everything that's happening, to experience the changes that are taking place here in Pontiac. A lot of great things. So I just want to say thank you to the superintendent and then an awesome staff that she has, and everyone else is working to get things accomplished and making Pontiac move forward with the school district. So just awesome times, a lot to look forward to. So as we continue to move forward, just looking for great things to happen coming the next school year as well. So everyone be safe out there for the summer. Make sure you get in that summer school, participate if you need to, and have some fun out there. Other than that, everybody be safe and take care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Hannah.
Good evening, everybody. Again, great meeting. Thank you, Superintendent and your staff. I'm excited. I'm happy that Trustee Gross and Superintendent reiterated the financial stability of the district and just having that full transparency so that everybody can see that we are how we're utilizing our resources for the district, and that we really do want to make sure that we give our students the educational experience that they deserve. So just wanted to say thanks again for making that public, and good job with everything. And that's all I have.
So after listening to trustee Hannah and trustee Terry, I'll just echo what they said. I agree with them totally. But I do want to say that summer is approaching. COVID is still here. And I wish that people remember that. And I want them to be safe. Summertime, sometimes people get courage they don't normally have with a group of kids, out there, So I just want you all to remember that you don't want to do anything that could cause you some pain and to be locked up. Let's keep it real. And so remember that there are consequences to your actions, and just be safe. And parents, please monitor your children. Find out where they are, what they're doing. Idle minds, my mother used to say, causes trouble. So I hope that they can get involved in some activities within the city. I think they're getting together now. I'm trying to provide some summer youth programs. With that being said, just be careful out there. Be careful. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Davis Smith. Good evening.
Good evening. Again, I would like to echo what my trustees were saying. So thank you, Mr. Graham, for the presentation of proposed 2022-2023 budget along with 2022-23 millage rates to ensure our community that we are being transparent and we're being good shepherds of our dollars. I would like to also congratulate our students from preschool to high school for graduating. Thank you all. I'd like to thank the administration, teachers, parapros, secretary, security, food service, custodian staff, dispatcher, and bus drivers who will continue to work for the summer school. So don't forget to put your kids in summer school.
Amen.
And have a fun and safe summer, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to thank my board members because we've been working very hard on this board this year due to our president, Mr. Garrett. I am calling you out because you have us working a whole lot of hours. These have been probably the amount of hours I have worked the whole 4 years I was on the board. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Oh
Man, how am I supposed to follow that?
man, hopefully you got my. Come on, man.
I got you, man.
Trustee Gross. Good evening.
You know, whew. But I can say this: it has been fun. It's fun
Well,
work.
thank
How about
you.
that?
Okay, it's fun work.
How about that?
Okay,
Fun
all
work.
right.
I don't know what to say. That's a, coming from yeah. I'm lost for words. Whew, that's a good one. That's yes, summer's here, and please enjoy. Trustee Turpin said something, and parents, know where your children are. Do you remember? These young bucks don't remember. Do you remember on television right before when the news went off, there was always a broadcast that says, "Do you know where your children are?" When I was young, that scared me. And my parents were like, "Yeah, they're right here." We need to bring that back.
Yeah.
We need to bring that. You guys remember that? Those out in TV land, you guys remember that? Do you know where your children are? You remember that? You were a little big thing. But summer's here, and I'm looking forward to it, especially after July 29th, 2022. And my summer is going to be extremely excellent. And I will see you guys the next meeting. I don't know what we're doing in July, but I'll be ready. And I'm looking forward to this summer, and we're gonna be fine. But yes, yeah, good work. Thank you. Good night.
Ooh, wait, that was okay. That's that's fair. That really is fair. We're going to have a good summer because we worked hard. We had good labor. We worked hard. We put some things already in place for communication. So if you're tied into what needs to happen, you'll be aware of what needs to what's going on, right? And so I did want to. State Rep Brenda Carter did a reach out to me, and she said who was going to Sunday, I believe it's the 19th. They're doing a walk or a march in honor of Juneteenth. And I think it's presented at Welcome Missionary Baptist Church. So if you want to get a hold to State Rep Carter, Brenda Carter, and see if you're going to be able to make, that's Father's Day. I did let her know I would not be able to make that first initial walk. So if it's my first, some other, some things, you got to be a father, right? And so that's going to be on the 19th. So if you are interested, trustees, please get a hold of Brenda, State Rep Brenda Carter, and let her know so she can put you on the list for that walk. We have some great things that's happening in the Pontiac School District. I make no qualms about how I feel and why I feel the way that I do about the district. And so this is the first time that I've served on a board where I feel that I can just keep pushing forward. I don't have to look back. I don't have to worry about who's saying what, who doing what on this over here and doing it. I feel like collectively there's some things that's happening where I continue to push forward and stand on some of the bold statements like I want all the smoke, right? Because I do. And some people don't. And some people like to act like they do. And then when it's time to have it, then it's like, oh, no, I'm just playing. No, I ain't playing because I'm still in watch, and there's still people who want our district to fail so their new job or new career can begin, because that's what happens. And I don't want people to get to mistake this as we're not failing. So those of us who, those of you who are looking for us to lose, sorry, not gonna happen. And those of you who think this is a money grab, that we're just, because you have a program that's not necessarily been accurately tested. So our kids, I don't know what you're gonna do with the other schools that's in the districts. Those other districts, they're not a part of Pontiac School District. They're in other districts. We don't experiment on our kids. And this board has approved over $1 million budget for the professionals that we have to deliver solid programs and put measurements over $1 million to put assessments in place to make sure that we can deliver what we need to deliver for our students. We know that they were behind, so they can catch up as far as literacy is concerned. We do think that's very important. And we do, and we need to have partners to do that. But if you're going to bring a program to the district, I need to be able to go and say, where have you done this somewhere else? Because our kids can't be experiment projects. It don't work that way. And if you're going to experiment, don't do it in education. Do it like something on a car or something that hold harmless. Do it something, I don't know, a fish or something. I don't know, but it just not kids. And I'm hoping I'm making myself clear, because I'm no longer going to keep dealing with adult issues. And I had to shut my phone off this weekend to stop from actually having to physically call somebody to say, don't stop playing with us. And so that's my last time. Like, you're not going to keep disrespecting the school district and keep saying something bad about our name to make your program look good. It does not operate like that. And the proof is in the pudding. And I don't care what board trustee you talking to. We're here for students. I know we're looking at these. We're here for students. We have our partnerships. We have trustees. They're open. You got telephone numbers. Call them. Any back door you think you're gonna go in, and we're gonna know about it. But there is no more back doors. Those days are gone. And get over it. It's okay. It's okay to do something new, right? It's okay. It's okay for change. Millions and millions of dollars. This is $100 million organization. I can see why you want to come this way, but don't experiment. Not with our kids. Go like, I don't know, to one of them other ones. So I got 11 seconds, 9 seconds, 8 seconds. He said that I wouldn't. See, he thought I was the best. He's the boss. You thought I was going to get that when he brought up the chart. See, that's my closing comments for next week. Miss Wright, thank you so much for the red stop sign. Gave us the red sign. Need a motion on the floor to close this meeting.
So moved.
Don't be so quick, Ms. Smith. Trustee Davis Smith, thank you. So moved by Trustee Davis Smith.
Support.
Support by Trustee Hannah to close them. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Mr. Terry. Thank you, Trustee Terry, for being there for me. Okay. Any other?
He ain't calling for the vote yet.
Right. Any questions, comments, concerns about closing? Sorry. Roll call, please.
Trustee Terry.
Yes.
Trustee Turpin.
Yes.
Treasurer Davis Smith.
Yes.
President Garrett. See, he owed it.
Sure. Yes.
He owed it out, and I marked it. I'm voting yes. And Trustee Hannah.
Yes.
Sir, we're done at what time?
We're done at 8:46 p.m.
Thank you, sir.
We're back. Thank you, Mr. Frank. Good night, y'all.